Shalom, Akim, more praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashim, Yahushua, Ba'ashim, Rakakodash, double honors to the apostles, elders, great millstone salute to sincere Akim out there of the hopeful elect. All right, and continuing on, man, from the the pre-introduction to this video about the war of the nations, man. I got a few scriptures gathered up that I want to bring out, and I want to run through them very quickly and make this video very brief and straight to the point, man. All right. So, the point of this video is that, the Lord is going to brew up a race war. And I see it coming, man. I'm pretty sure you brothers can see it coming. You can feel the tension, and it's in the air, most certainly, okay, between what's considered so-called black and white people. All right. And when you say black people, the nation of Israel is all grouped up into that lump. All right. Starting with the head tribe, the tribe of Judah, which is the so-called African Americans. Okay. But, whatever we go through as so-called African Americans, the rest of the tribes are experiencing the same effects because we're under these curses. All right. And the main enemy is the nation of Edom, which is the so-called white man, these Caucasians. Okay. So it's always been a racial tension between so-called black and white. Whether the media want to shift towards the Latinos and Hispanics, okay, or even bring up some certain events taking place with the Native Americans and the injustice that they get on the reservations by the U.S. government. All right. Nonetheless, there's tension in the air, man. Okay. You see the consistency of police brutality and young Jakes getting killed left and right in America in all these cities by the police department, man, in whatever local city or town you reside in. Okay. And really, it's unjustly body cameras being turned off, or body cameras even revealing the footage of unjust beatdowns that lead to people's death, or shootings that lead to our people's death, and these police officers either getting found not guilty, if any charges ever being brought up against them at all. Okay, so it's clearly a racial thing, man. It's clearly a racial thing, and that's the Most High bringing that all up to keep the racial tension in effect, because there's going to be a major race war that's brewing. And it's not just the beef between the so-called white man and the so-called black man, but these other nations as well, man. Okay, because you have these other nations that come here to this country and they look down on the so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans who are suffering in the ghetto, and they profit off of our people, man. Because of the messed up condition that we are actually in. All right. So let me bring this scripture out real quick in the book of Matthew, chapter 24, verse 7. It says, "For nation shall rise against nation." All right. And see, when the scriptures say nation shall rise against nation, most people in America think that a nation involves whatever country you come from. Whether this is talking about the United States of America versus Iran or Syria or Russia, for that matter. Okay, no, those are just countries, so-called established countries that have been founded or declared by a particular people. Okay, all right, mainly the so-called white man, because the so-called white man, he pretty much rules the earth. The scriptures tell you that, Job 9:24, the earth is given into the hand of the wicked, and the so-called white man is the wicked according to the Bible. All right, but in this scripture it says, "For nation shall rise against nation." That's talking about nationalities, man. That's why this video is called the War of the Nations, okay, which basically means your race, the lineage, the paternal line that you come from, okay, because nation or nationality is determined by your forefathers, or who your father is, your paternal line, okay, all right. And you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, you come from the nation of Israel. Our paternal line goes back to Jacob, and his father Isaac, and his father Abraham. Okay, all right. Meanwhile, the other nations, they have a different father. In particular, the so-called white man, he descended from a man named Esau. Okay, and they're in fact our closest relative when speaking of or concerning the rest of the nations that the Most High created. Okay, believe it or not, you so-called black people here in America are more closely related to the so-called white man than you are related to the Africans or the Chinese, because a lot of you Jakes like to call yourselves Asiatic black men or what have you. All right, but guess what? The so-called white man is a more close kin of you than the so-called Africans and the so-called Asians. All right, and that's a fact, and that's according to the scriptures, the Holy Bible. Okay, so like I said, nationality is determined by your paternal lineage, and the so-called white man descended from Esau, and you so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans descended from Jacob. Okay, and there's more nations as well, like the Africans, which descended from the man Ham. All right, then you have the Chinese and the Japanese, which they descended from Moab and Ammon. Okay, then you have the Arabs, which these people are not related to us whatsoever. Okay, and they descended from Ishmael, the East Indians who descended from Elam. Okay, so the Lord is going to gather a major race war with all these different nations, man, wherein people are going to have to get out of that melting pot mentality that America teaches Babylon, which means land of confusion. You know, that's why you got all these beige babies running around crazy out here in America. You know, from all the intermingling and the intermixing of the different nations. Okay, but the Lord is about to separate all of that, man, and He's going to create a race war in this society. I'm going to read that again, Matthew 24:7. For nation shall rise against nation. Okay, so it's going to be a war of the races, a war of the nations. Okay, black versus white. You know, you Hispanics, you're going to get busy on the so-called white man, and the Africans as well, and the Chinese and the Japanese and all of that, man. Okay, all right. You know, lately in the news has been, a lot of talk about Asian hate crime and this, that, and the third. But guess what, man? All of that shit is going to increase. It's going to skyrocket right out the goddamn roof. Okay, all right, because the Lord is brewing this race war up. That's the prophecy, man. That's why the tension is there, and there's nothing that can quell it, man. You can have all the community meetings and community talks and bring attention and awareness to this shit as much as you want. But guess what? The tension is always going to be there, man. Why? Because the Lord is brewing up this race war. All right? It says, in kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places. Now, you've seen what happened with the major earthquake out there in Turkey. Okay? Which we know that was pretty much set up. Okay? That was set up by the elites. All right? Which the Most High wiped out an estimated, 30,000 of them goddamn Turks. I hope it was the Ottoman Turks out there, man, for the most part. Okay? But nonetheless, those heathens got fucking demolished out there in Asia Minor, which is modern day Turkey. Okay? Which further shows you that the Lord don't care about these heathen nations, man. Matter of fact, this is the book of Isaiah, chapter 40, verse 15. It says, behold, the nations are as a drop of a bucket and are counted as the small dust of the balance. All right? So the Lord said the nations are as a drop of a bucket. If you have a full pail of water and one drop falls out of that pail, you ain't going to be concerned with that. You're not going to try to gather and scoop that one drop up to throw it back into the bucket, man. All right? That's a loss that's not worthy of being taken seriously, man. That's how the Lord views these other nations. He doesn't even consider these other nations, man. That's why you can have these major earthquakes, like the one that happened in Turkey, right? You also have tsunamis that happen that takes place in Asia and out there in out there in Indonesia and such, all right, where the Lord devoured these other nations by the thousands, tens of thousands, all right, and such, and so forth. Okay? Why? Because they don't mean nothing to the Lord, man. These heathens don't mean a goddamn thing to the Most High. He's not concerned with them. Okay? When you look at what's going on out there in the welfare state of Israel with these Israelis slaughtering these Palestinians by the masses, right? They got a Jim Crow system pretty much set up out there in the welfare state of Israel, where these Palestinians are not allowed to be around these small hats in these different communities, and they got to go through checkpoints and all kind of shit, man. But the Lord don't consent. He's not concerned with them Palestinians, man. He got the Israelis slaughtering them with automatic weapons while these Palestinians are throwing rocks at the Israelis, man. It's basically a goddamn onslaught. Why? Because the Lord he's not concerned with these heathen nations. And the Palestinians, which are Arabs, are heathens, man. And they get slaughtered left and right. And the Lord does not care about them because the nations are but a drop of a bucket to him. All right? It says, and are counted as the small dust of the balance. Yeah. If you got a scale, all right, on a beam with dust particles on it, if one speck of dust falls off of one side of the scale, it's not, or for one side of the balance, it's not going to tip the scale. It has no effect. It has no weight. It serves no value. And that's what these other nations are in the eyes of the Most High. Okay? It says, behold, he take up the owls as a very little thing. Okay? Yeah, and that's these other nations, man. Japhet, which is you Polynesians, Aborigines, and you people out there in Indonesia and such. All right? The Most High ain't concerned with you. People that live in the little Pacific Islands and Hawaiians and all of that, the Most High don't give a goddamn about you, man. And it's evident. It shows you right here in the scriptures. Okay? Guess what? And when the time comes for the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans who make up the 12 tribes of the nation of Israel to get justice, we're going to run right through you goddamn heathens, man. Okay? We're going to run right through you heathens. All right? Every last one of you, man. The so-called white man, starting with the so-called white man, and then it's going to trickle on down to the rest of you heathens, you Africans, you Arabs, you Chinese, Japanese, you Samoans, Hawaiians, and Pacific Islanders. You all going to be ran through, man. You East Indian coolies and you Arabs, because I ain't forget about you either. All right? The Lord didn't forget about you. You're going to be judged. You're going to be destroyed. That's the sole purpose of why you landed here in America. Okay? Matter of fact, let me get that real quick. This is the book of Micah, chapter 5, verse 7. It says, and the remnant of Jacob shall be in the midst of many people as a dew from the Lord, as the showers upon the grass that tarrieth not for man, nor waiteth for the sons of men. And the remnant of Jacob shall be among the Gentiles in the midst of many people. All right. And like I said, once again, Jacob consists of the 12 tribes, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. All right. And we are among the Gentiles. The Gentiles represents the heathen nations in this particular scripture. Okay. And you see that in our community. Chinese stores set up. Little Arab chicken spots, okay? The delicatessens on the corner in the ghettos ran by Arabs, right? Little Yemenis people, okay? You got the coolies running the Dunkin' Donuts, the Chinaman running the laundromats and the cleaners, okay? So these heathens, they live amongst us, man, and they're profiting off of us, man. They set up businesses and shops in our communities. They're here, okay? But the time is coming where Jake is just going to throw down. The Lord is going to raise Jake up, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, and make you get busy on these heathens, man, who are profiting off of your sufferings, man. Okay? It says, and the remnant of Jacob shall be among the Gentiles in the midst of many people as a lion among the beasts of the forest. Now, when you place a lion amongst the beasts of the forest, the lion is going to devour every single beast in the field, man. It's basically considered food or prey. All right? It says, as a young lion among the flocks of sheep. And when you take the most valiant beast of the field and pin him against the most humble, the most humble and most meek four-footed beast that the Lord ever created, which is the sheep, what do you think the turnout is going to be? That lion is going to tear right through them sheep, right through that flock of sheep. And that's the same thing that Israel is going to do to these other nations, man. That's the same thing that we're going to do collectively as a nation against these heathens, man. Okay? It says, who if he go through, both treadeth down and teareth in pieces, and none can deliver. That's right, man. So there's going to be a major race war. This is the major great race riot that's prophesied in the scriptures, man. Because there's many prophecies that's going to take place in these last days. And this is one of them, man. It's going to be dangerous, man. Real men are going to have to be men in that day, man. Okay? All of that shit with you bowing down to the woman and the woman's lib and women's rights and these women trying to be equal to men and these goddamn bull daggers and butch bitches out there. That shit ain't gonna hold no weight, man. All of that's gonna be super irrelevant. And you brothers and sisters, you're gonna see it, man. You're gonna see it, man. Once shit really heats up and get real. All right? Once things really hit the fan, man. Okay? This is the book of Isaiah, chapter 13. Verse 14. Okay, it says, and it shall be as a chaste roe and as a sheep that no man taketh up. All right, talking about these heathens, in particular the so-called white man. He's going to be as a chaste roe. What is a roebuck? It's a deer, and they're going to be running for dear life. Okay, once the Lord raises Israel up, once Jacob comes to that point of desperation, and the Lord puts the spirit on us to fight against our enemies, man. Okay. We're going to chase these fucking devils down from the goddamn inner city out into the suburbs, all the way out into the rural America, man. All right? Okay, and they ain't gonna be safe in rural America because you got the tribe of Gad out there on the reservations, man. That's gonna flee them reservations and come right into white society, man, and get vengeance, exact vengeance through the spirit of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shah. All right, and nobody's gonna be able to save them. That's why it says, "And as a sheep that no man taketh up," meaning a sheep without a shepherd. All right, so the police department, Homeland Security, the FBI, the CIA, all right, the 5 branches of the military, the National Guard, ain't nothing gonna save you goddamn devils, man, when the Lord puts the spirit on Jake. Okay? It says, "They shall every man turn to his own people and flee every one into his own land." People gonna have to go back with their own kind, man. All right? All of that intermingling and the Rainbow Coalition and the big race of humanity that Babylon is trying to promote, that shit is gonna be null and void, man. Okay? Because the Lord is gonna set it up where you're gonna have to go with your own people, man. And you jakes out there that want to be down with the so-called white man and be part of these fucking heathens, you're gonna have to pick a side, man. You're gonna have to come to grasp with reality, man. Okay? Because really, in all reality, them crackers gonna fucking outcast you, man, if you try to linger on to them. And then you being a sellout, the so-called black man that's in America that been suffering while you've been sitting there kissing the white man and hugging his jock, Jake ain't gonna accept you fucking sellout niggas, man. You coons of our nation. Okay? So it's gonna get ugly, man. Better believe that, man. I promise you that.